You have to have a soul, and I think that's where a lot of people are lacking. They don't have a soul, and they also don't know the history of photography, which is how I learned my photography. I looked at all magazines and books that I can get my hands on. I looked at what I liked. I tried to figure out what lens they used, where they stood, and then I said to myself, wait, if they can do it, why can't I?
In the beginning of anyone's sort of photography career, any sort of creative endeavor for that matter rather, we're all told to be different, to be unique, to stand out, to not follow trends, do your own thing, or some sort of version of that line. And as a beginner, you know, that sounds like really good advice. Like, yeah, okay, cool, be fearless, do your thing, do your thing. But in the beginning, most of us don't really know what we want to be. How do you find your own voice if you have no idea what you want to say? I actually have a bit of a radical stance on this. It was something that was taught to me when I first started out. A really good way to find your own voice in photography is to copy.
In 1994, Steve Jobs famously said, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." But he arguably stole that quote from this guy, Pablo Picasso, who arguably stole that quote from this guy, Igor Stravinsky, who said, "Lesser artists copy, great artists steal."
Yeah, in the beginning, I believe that the best way to learn, or at least an incredible way to learn in the beginning, is to completely rip off other people's work. Just straight up make copies of other people's work. Now just calm down, put down your pitchforks. Obviously I don't mean publish the work that you copy as your own. Of course not. Copying other people's work is not only an incredible way to learn a lot very, very fast, but it's also an incredible way to pull yourself out of a creative rut. If anyone else is like me right now during this lockdown, you're in one hell of a creative rut. Photography is just like any other craft. There are a million different tools and techniques that you could use to create an infinite number of possibilities. So when I'm trying to learn something new, and I'll pick a photo, for example, and I will try to dissect it and try to reverse engineer the image itself. I try to figure out what lighting do they use? Do they use modifiers? Where's the light coming from? What sort of themes and motifs are they using? What sort of expressions do they use? What's the color palette they use? Is it very bright, vibrant? Is it lots of reds, lots of blues? What textures do they use? Just break it down piece by piece and then figure out how each piece of the equation is made. And hopefully with that new knowledge of technique, you can use the tools that you now learn how to use to then create something new. Make a sense?
Just wanted to butt in here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you're enjoying the video, obviously. Even if you don't like the video, like it anyway and subscribe anyway. Tell me how much you hate it. Forgot to mention, the winner of the lens is Dan Farrell. Hit me up on the DMs or whatever. Let me get your details and I'll send it over to you. Back to the video.
And through that process, I'm learning way more, way faster than if I had, say, gone and paid for like a workshop or an online course. Don't just watch tutorials, actually do them.
We are soldiers. No, we never blush.
Knowledge of theory is completely useless if you don't apply them. But then you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm not actually creating my own work. I'm just creating a poor version of someone else's work. I hear you cry. And this is where copying other people's work leads to creating your own unique, original work. It's a little hack that will guarantee that you create your own unique, original work. I'm calling it the MFU method. Make the familiar unfamiliar. By the way, I didn't come up with it, but but I did come up with a name. We see this all the time in music, in the form of remixes. You see it in sort of fusion food, mashups, reworkings of things that have already come before. You see movies being remade all the time. So how do we apply it to photography?
We are soldiers, the three of us. We are soldiers.
It's easy to copy. It is easy to copy. The really hard bit, right, is to create something unique and build on top of it, right? Or is it? There are plenty of ways of making familiar things unfamiliar, but I'm just going to take you through my favorite way, the simplest way. Let's take a self-portrait. And I've taken many self-portraits in my time, but I want to do something different. I want to take it up another level. I want to build on what I've already done. How do I apply the MFU method to this self-portrait? Tyler Shields. In my opinion, Tyler Shields is a master of making the familiar unfamiliar. A common theme in his work is that he takes very common, very iconic historical references and cultural references and completely flips them on their head. For example, one of his most iconic images is a typical lynching scene in America, and he just simply switches the roles around. He takes a very, very familiar image, one that we've all seen in history books, and does something so simple as to switch the roles around. He takes a familiar historical scene and makes it completely unfamiliar. So, for the self-portrait, I thought I'd take a leaf out of Tyler Shields' book. Be a bit bold, be a bit taboo. Tyler Shields loves dealing with taboo subjects. He likes to deal with police brutality, greed, consumer greed. So for my self-portrait, I wanted to also touch upon something very current, sort of taboo in a way. I won't tell you what it is, you guys are gonna have to figure it out. That's also something else Tyler Shields does. He presents an image to the world and he allows the viewer to draw their own conclusion. I'll also incorporate the use of props. That's something that he does a lot of as well.
My girls are better than your girls, 'cause they're not really girly girls, like a girly girl. They're really cool, not that shallow. Cool, not that shallow. My girls are better than your girls, 'cause they're not really girly girls, like a girly girl. They're really cool, not that shallow. Cool, not that shallow. The three of us, we are soldiers.
You know, there are plenty of ways to come up with an idea. You don't have to implement the MFU method. It's just a suggestion. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. I like the MFU method because it works on an idea that already works. You know, you're building on top of something that already works. Another great way is to sort of make use of popular trends. You know, we're sort of taught to sort of turn our noses up at trends and not to fall for them. But I think that's, you know, for the most part, of course, you don't want to just become a carbon copy of a trend, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. It doesn't mean that you can't make the most of them. You know, for example, why not use them as a launch pad to then find your own path? Or combine popular trends. Combine 2 or 3 popular trends to then come up with something completely different. You know, why limit yourself to just photography? You know, we all have multiple different interests and things that we're passionate about. Why not combine them and see how one passion can feed off of the other passion? What if I took X and made it look like Y, whilst taking inspiration from Z and Q, whereby you just input literally anything you want into this formula? A movie, it could be a photo, it could be a color palette, it could be a mood, an emotion, a song, your granddad's favorite drink, your favorite food, a certain smell. It could be literally anything. When trying to come up with a really good idea, the key is to literally cut off that filter in your head that says that is a bad idea. Get as many ideas as humanly possible onto paper, even the bad ones. No, especially the bad ones, because the more bad ideas you put down, the faster you get to the good ones. And in the next video, I'll share with you guys what I was trying to say with this self-portrait. But in the meantime, let me know down in the comments what you think I'm trying to say with this photo. Follow me on Instagram at Zain. Subscribe if you have not already. And with all that said and done, boys and girls, I'll see you all in the next one.